Apprenticeship, Learning to Love, Serve, and Be Like Jesus with Rebecca and Douglas Pereira.
What is an apprentice? An apprentice is more than a student. They do more than learn. They gain more than head knowledge. An apprentice draws near to the master. They listen carefully to what the master says. They watch closely what the master does. Then they practice it. Again and again, they practice what they've seen and heard to come as close as possible to the master's mind and skill. That is why we want to be apprentices of Jesus. We want to move beyond mere head knowledge about Jesus and his kingdom. To do that, we will draw close to him. We will listen and watch, and we will practice. As we do this, we will be transformed. We will truly love, serve, and be like him. This is what the apprenticeship is all about.
Hello, and welcome to the Apprenticeship. I'm Olivia, and I'm an apprentice of Jesus. I'm learning from my parents, Rebecca and Douglas Pereira, how to love, serve, and be like Jesus. They are the hosts of the Apprenticeship show, and I know you will learn a lot with them. In this show, you'll closely study Jesus' life, walking in his footsteps. You'll gain insights to build your faith. After all, to love, serve, and be like Jesus, we need to know him well. Then, you'll enter in his workshop. You learn to see God's work in your life and surrender to his unique plan for you. That plan includes one overarching purpose for each of us. Jesus saves us, and then he invites us to join his efforts in rescuing others. As rescue workers, we'll learn how to bring others to God's kingdom. The show is guided by the Apprentice's Creed. The Creed is found in the Gospel of Mark. You must love the Lord with all your heart, with all your being, with all your mind, and with all your strength. Love others as well as you love yourself. Each episode has a study guide, which you can find on the website or by scanning the QR code. The study guide will help you go deeper into the topics. I think you'll find it very helpful. Thank you for joining us for the first episode on the Apprenticeship. We're going to learn so much together.
In his footsteps.
They say that to truly know someone, you need to walk a mile in their shoes. But what does that really mean? It means understanding them, where they come from, what experiences they've had, and where they're heading, what they hope for, what they work for. It means discovering what is important to them and why. It means knowing their heart, what delights them, what fulfills them, and what pains them. This is truly knowing someone, and this is how we want to know Jesus. We can't walk a literal mile in his shoes, but we can retrace his footsteps in the Gospels. He has shared his story and his mission with us, and he has opened his heart to us. To truly love, serve, and be like Jesus, we need to know him, to really know him. This is what In His Footsteps is all about.
Welcome to the Apprenticeship community. We are about to embark on an incredible journey into the life of Jesus.
That's right. We're learning to love, serve, and be like Jesus by walking in his footsteps and studying his ways. It's like we're apprentices of kingdom living, and what a journey it is.
To truly live like Jesus, we must spend time with him. We must read the Gospels to understand his character, his teachings, and his heart.
We've chosen to begin with the Gospel of Luke. We'll explore different passages of Luke, uncover valuable lessons of practical insights.
To make this experience inclusive for everyone, we have chosen the New Living Translation. It captures the essence of the original text while being easily understandable, even for children. As parents, it is important to us to involve our children in this journey, right, Rebecca?
Absolutely, Douglas. We want to inspire parents and grandparents to do the same. It's a beautiful way to grow together as a family.
Each episode, we will reflect on a biblical passage. We will also pick a verse to challenge you to commit to memory. This week, it is Luke chapter 1, verse 4. In this study guide, you will find questions for reflection on this passage and the rest of today's episode.
But before we dive into Luke, let's take a moment to consider the author. Although it's widely believed that Luke wrote Luke and Acts, he didn't actually put his name in the gospel.
The New Testament does not tell us much about Luke. In fact, he's mentioned only 3 times. But we know he was Paul's co-worker, a physician, and a Gentile, and occasionally traveled with Paul.
The way Luke wrote suggests that he was an educated man, and scholars believe that he's the only non-Jewish author in the Bible, which is very interesting.
Luke's gospel is truly special. It highlights the importance of women, children, and those who are often overlooked. Luke is all about love, inclusion, the power of prayer, and the Holy Spirit.
Luke emphasizes that God values each of us. In Luke, the Gentiles are often shown in a positive light, reminding us that God loves everyone.
So let us dive into this incredible journey together. Ready, Rebecca?
Ready, Douglas. And we hope you are too. Let's get started. We're reading today from Luke chapter 1, verses 1 to 4. We're excited to have our son Christopher read it for us.
Many people have set out to write accounts about the events that have been fulfilled among us. They used the eyewitness reports circulating among us from the early disciples. Having carefully investigated everything from the beginning, I also have decided to write an accurate account for you, most honorable Theophilus, so you can be certain of the truth of everything you were taught.
I have a question for you, Rebecca. When you pick up a book, what is one of the first things you do?
Well, first, I like to look at the cover. And then I might even also look through it.
Well, in the ancient world, a book was a scroll. There was no back cover and you could not flip through it. That's why the first sentences were very important. So what does Luke convey in his opening lines?
He reveals the purpose and heart behind his account. He clearly put a lot of care into every word because he packs a lot of information into these few lines. He wants to give people a solid understanding of Jesus' life and his teachings. He assures us that his account is trustworthy, accurate, and well-researched. So even though he may not have met Jesus personally, he's showing us that he's done his homework and we can trust what he writes.
At first glimpse, these lines may seem unimportant to us. They are the boring part before the good stuff starts. But actually, I see something in them that we can learn. Biblical faith is not about wishful thinking or taking blind leaps. It is about having knowledge based on facts. This knowledge builds on our confidence and trust.
Our faith is based on evidence. We can be completely confident in the truth. What a perfect way to open an account of Jesus' life. So here's a question. How can we know what we believe is true? Where do we get this knowledge?
Well, for starters, we can read the Gospel of Luke. We can also read the personal accounts of those who were with Jesus. Luke has compiled many of them in his Gospel. There is also Matthew, who was Jesus' disciple, and John, who was also his disciple.
That makes sense. We can learn from those who were closest to him. We could also expand that reading list to include the whole Bible. Jesus doesn't drop in out of the blue. He's part of a larger story. In fact, I'd say he's central to the whole story.
We can also examine our personal experiences with God and listen to other experiences in their walk with God. These true stories also build our knowledge and our faith.
That reminds me of the familiar example of a chair. We're certain the chair will hold us up because that has been our experience. There's also the science behind it all. The way the chair is designed and gravity and all of that. Knowledge and experience go hand in hand to assure us that we can be certain of what we believe.
And Luke brings those together. I'm really looking forward to diving deeper into his book with you in our next episodes.
You know, the apprenticeship and its resources wouldn't be possible without Agents of Hope. You may be wondering, who are Agents of Hope? Well, they're people who are committed to sharing our hope in Jesus. They believe in the vision of Hope Channel Canada and support its ministry. Through their support, Agents of Hope make programming like the apprenticeship possible. Would you like to help us? You can become an Agent of Hope too. You can visit the website or scan the QR code. Together, we can share with Canada that there's more to life, and it's found in Jesus.
In his workshop.
A workshop is where things are made. They are shaped according to a vision, to a plan. A workshop is also where broken things are restored. They are transformed, put back together. They're made useful and beautiful again. Jesus is the master craftsman. He invites us into his workshop. Here, Jesus wields his tools with expert skill, working in us. He shapes us into the people he designed us to be. He repairs our broken places. He restores his image in us. And he prepares us for the unique mission that is ours alone to fulfill. We must enter his workshop and allow him to work in us, and we must participate. Only then can we be transformed from the inside out. This is what In His Workshop is all about.
Have you ever thought about Jesus in his workshop, Douglas? I'm sure he made beautiful furniture. Maybe he had a favorite type of wood, and I bet some tools fit his hand perfectly because he used them so much. I wonder about his sense of humor and how he dealt with challenges.
We do not have any details about Jesus' time in the workshop, but we can imagine he did his work with love and attention to detail. I can see him treating each customer as the most important person in the world. I would love to be with him in his workshop and maybe even lend a hand.
You know, in a way, we're all in Jesus' workshop, a workshop that transcends time and place. Instead of working with wood, Jesus works with people. He takes our ups and downs and turns them into a personalized training program. He molds us into the person he knows we can be.
That's very true, Rebecca. But I would add that unlike wood, which cannot protest or have its own ideas, we need to cooperate with him. How much he can shape us depends on our willingness to let go our ego, let down our defenses, and completely surrender to him. And what is his vision for us? Well, it is to shape us for a meaningful purpose in his kingdom.
That is right, Douglas. And that brings us to this part of our journey together in his workshop. We'll help you recognize how God is shaping your life. We'll encourage you to partner with him to unleash your God-given potential.
Rather than resist, we hope you will embrace his guidance and work hard to make any necessary changes. This way, you can beautifully fulfill your unique purpose in God's kingdom.
But Douglas, let's make it clear what we mean when we talk about work. We're not talking about working for our salvation. The Bible is crystal clear that our salvation comes only from Jesus. We simply accept salvation and rely on what God has done for us. The Apostle Paul wrote, God saved you by his grace when you believed. And you can take credit for this. It is a gift from God. Salvation is not a reward for the good things we have done, so none of us can boast about it.
Absolutely, Rebecca. Thank you for making that clear. Now that we have embraced Jesus and received his salvation, God is shaping us for something extraordinary. Ephesians 2 also says, "For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the good things he planned for us long ago." This verse reminds us that we are uniquely crafted by God to fulfill the wonderful purpose he has for each of us.
We've all been created to reflect God's image. That is our primary purpose. But we've been affected by sin. It cripples our ability to reflect his image. Now, in God's workshop, we're on a journey to restoration, to be transformed into the likeness of Jesus, who shows us what God is like. Colossians 1 says, "Christ is the visible image of the invisible God." As we follow Jesus, we become more and more like him, reflecting God's image in the world.
And we are in this together. We need to support and uplift each other as we are in God's workshop.
Douglas, maybe viewers today question whether God is working in their lives. Maybe they don't see any evidence of his activity. They feel left outside of his workshop, left to figure things out on their own. Well, I have good news for you. The real question is not, "God, are you working my life?" Rest assured that God is always at work, whether we see it or not.
Think about it. God worked through Balaam and Jonah, two very imperfect men, and one of them was even a heathen, an unbeliever. If God can work through them, then he can work in your life. He certainly has not left you on your own.
So we can change the question from, "God, are you working my life?" to, "God, what are you doing in my life?" We can ask God to help us see what he's doing. And then the most important thing to ask ourselves is, do I have the courage to be a part of his work? Am I truly willing to join him in his work of redemption in my life and all around me?
Beautifully put, Rebecca. God, what are you doing in and through my life? And do I have the courage to be part of it? We'll make these core questions our constant companion when we are in his workshop.
And for now, rest assured, God is at work in your life.
On the apprenticeship, we're all about learning. We're focusing on how to love, serve, and be like Jesus. But maybe there's more you'd like to know. Well, did you know that Hope Channel has a learning platform? It's called Hope Study. Hope Study offers courses that connect real life with faith. The studies answers questions like, does God exist? What is the purpose of life? Can I trust the Bible? What happens after death? Why is there suffering? Can I really change? Hope Study is a place to explore life's most profound questions with answers from a biblical perspective. I hope you take a look. You can visit our website or scan the QR code.
The Rescue Worker.
Stories of daring rescues capture our attention. The selfless rescuers inspire us with their determination to save others. Their actions challenge us to ask, would I have done the same? Jesus is the ultimate daring, determined, and selfless rescuer. He put it all on the line for us. He held nothing back, but gave everything to save us, the ones he loves. And he asks us, would you do the same for the others I love? Jesus invites us to join his rescue efforts, to bring people back from the brink to the safety of his love and kingdom. But how do we do that? What does it take to be a rescue worker for God's kingdom? That is what Rescue Workers is all about.
I want to tell you a story, Douglas. It's New Year's Eve 2021 near Houston, Texas. A 63-year-old man's car plunges into the Houston Ship Channel from a ferry landing, and he's trapped inside. Robert Cody Moore, a 54-year-old, is enjoying his meal at a nearby restaurant when he hears about the emergency. Without a second thought, he dashes out and sees the car sinking. Without hesitating, Moore jumps the 8-foot drop from the ferry dock into the channel and swims 20 feet to the car. When Moore discovers that all the doors are locked, he shouts out life-saving instructions to the man. Now, I want you to picture this. The car is sinking fast, and a current is dragging it towards a buoy. Time is running out. Then, as the water reaches the man's head, the driver's window opens. Moore pulls him through the window, tells him to float on his back, and holds him close to keep him safe. Now remember, the ferry dock is 8 feet above water, so they can't get out of the water there. Instead, Moore swims another 30 feet to the buoy, where they hold on to the chains, waiting for help. Moore's son and his neighbor come to help. They make a rope from shirts and lower it from the ferry dock to the water. Moore then swims back to the landing with the man, grabs the shirt rope with one hand while supporting the man with the other, and both are pulled to safety. What a way to end the year.
Wow. Stories like these leave us in awe. Tales of bravery inspire us to reach for greater heights too. Yet, there's a story that surpasses them all, isn't there, Rebecca? It is the story of the journey of God's Son.
Absolutely. You know, Moore left a New Year's Eve dinner with his family. He left a good, safe, and enjoyable place to jump into a cold and dangerous river to save a stranger. But think of this. Jesus left the perfect harmony, love, peace, and beauty of heaven to plunge into our world's frightening waters. He left perfection so he could rescue us from the depths of our sin. Paul writes, though he was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave and was born as a human being.
And like the man in the car, he cannot save ourselves. Paul highlighted this with a personal example. He wrote, I love God's law with all my heart, but there is another power within me that is at war with my mind. This power makes me a slave to the sin that is still within me. Oh, what a miserable person I am. Who will free me from this life that is dominated by sin and death? Thank God. The answer is Jesus Christ our Lord. And Jesus himself said, for the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost. Jesus Christ, the ultimate hero, jumped into our world to save us from drowning in our sin. Without him, we would be trapped in the sinful waters with no hope of survival.
Jesus is the divine rescue worker who saves us from the results of sin, which we know is eternal death. We're given the opportunity to break free from sin and reach safety in him.
But it is not just for us. God loves us all who are stuck in sin. He rescues us and then asks for help to bring others to safety. He invites us to become rescue workers with him, to follow his leading to save more of his beloved children.
This is what Rescue Workers is about. Our goal is to seize the opportunity to partner with God in our own growth and to help others to do the same.
It is all about joining God's efforts and supporting each other as we learn to rescue others.
You know, a key part of a Christian's journey is how we respond to God's plan. While God is in control, it is the believer's choice to align his or her will with God's. When they do, they are shaped according to His purpose.
It's really a partnership. We rely on God while also taking responsibility for our obedience and involvement in His plans. The Apostle Paul writes, "Work hard to show the results of your salvation, obeying God with deep reverence and fear. For God is working in you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases Him."
We can grow as believers when we recognize God's work and actively join Him. We can embrace God's call and His work in our lives. This partnership between God and us spans a lifetime.
In our next episode, we will explore this partnership and how we can participate.
As God created the world, He would step back to celebrate, to say that it was good, until it wasn't. What wasn't good? That man was alone. So God created a helper for him, a companion. It was the first marriage and the first community. It is not good for us to be alone. We were created to be in community, to support each other, to learn from each other, and to spur each other on to truth, love, and godliness. So, why not start an apprentice community? An apprentice community is a small group of people who are dedicated to being Jesus' apprentices, to creating a community of grace, trust, and support. Each episode of the apprenticeship has a study guide designed for small groups. They can be found on the website or by scanning the QR code for each episode. Through group activities and discussions, the study guides review concepts and give practical applications for real life. They would give meaningful purpose and direction to any small group. So, why not start an apprentice community today?
Thank you for joining us today on The Apprenticeship. We're learning how to truly love, serve, and be like Jesus. There's a study guide for this episode. You can find it on our website or by scanning the QR code. It will guide you even deeper into the topics Rebecca and Douglas covered. I encourage you to get it. You can even use it in small groups and discussions. I hope you've been blessed by today's episode, and I hope we'll see you next week as we learn more about being apprentices of Jesus.